And with that, we are live. Greetings and salutations, fellow questioners. Tonight, we're going to talk about the number 666. Is it just a number? Is it a name? Or is there a hidden message? Is it all of the above? We'll find out tonight. But it won't be me alone. No. We got Donnie Cho riding side saddle as normal.
Hey, everybody.
And we are actually joined tonight by Marquise William from SOR Radio. How you doing, Marquise?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, can you let everybody know where they can find you, when they find you?
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Because this is your second time coming here.
It is, and I'm excited to be back again. I wasn't sure if the first time was crazy and you just didn't want me back or not, but okay, I guess I did okay. But you can all find me on Twitch, which is where I primarily stream every day, but mainly the biggest ones are Monday through Friday. And then my Twitch stream is Dimensions of Reality. So check me out there. I go by Dr. Dora on Twitch. And then, of course, on the weekends, you can catch me on the Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel for the After Hours show. And I am the host of that show as well. But mainly it's the Twitch channel. Check me out on Twitch. So
excellent. Real quick. Before we get into any announcements, for those who are listening on KPNL or Odyssey, Texas Front Porch, TEX' Front Porch, because it's Texas Porch, Front Porch, is the channel on YouTube and on Rumble. Go hop on over, right? Every Monday, we got Texas Front Porch. On Tuesdays, we got Beyond BMR with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and we got Van Buren Varieties. Wednesdays, for one more week, next week, you got us. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then on Thursdays, you got Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob and the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. And on Fridays, you got the Blondes and the Booze and the Woo, because you want a little woo with your booze. And actually, I'll be on that show this week, so I'll be hopping on and helping out. They've got Ryan Trimbley on there, so I'll be there. Of course, SOR Saturdays and Sundays. We got Jessica Jones. She's a friend of ours. Go say hi, and while you're there, say howdy to Marquise.
Yeah.
Now, as I mentioned, we have this episode and then one more episode, and then our stint as the weekly Wednesday show will come to an end on Texas Front Porch. Again, like, follow, and subscribe over at Jason McLean Questions Everything. Links in the doobly-doo below. We are still going to be doing shows, right? They're going to be mostly pre-recorded. We'll do a live show every once in a while. And we have little shows like this. Yesterday, we went ahead and launched one about the Las Vegas, alien in the backyard. We talked about that. All kinds of fun things. So go on over, like, follow, subscribe. You'll have a grand old time. However, Texas Front Porch is not going to leave you just hanging on Wednesdays without content. Miss Danielle Diva will be filling in. Her show will start at 9:00. I don't think I'm allowed to announce the name of it yet. So once we get that squared away,
9:00 your time zone, Jason.
Sorry, 9:00 Central Standard Time, 10 in the East for those Bigfoot Michigan Rob fans. So, yes. So again, we got two more, this week and the next week. But then you are not being left high and dry. Danielle Diva will be filling in for your Wednesday Texas Front Porch needs. Now, that having been said, there's one other thing we can announce. Donnie, would you like to?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm going to be starting my own show. I'm going to go into more detail of it next week, but plans are already into works. I got me a new mic, so I just sound less. You can actually hear me now. It's also nice not having to lean into the mic all the time, because my original mic was so crappy. But this one, I can actually sit normally and talk. Oh, this is nice, guys.
It is. It's better for your posture, too.
Yeah. Man, I always have lower back pain after every show. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to be doing my own show. And we'll go into more detail next week. But I also just wanted to let people know that we're not going anywhere per se. I mean, we're not leaving because of drama or anything. We're still all friends, and we still hang out, we still chat, and you'll probably be seeing Jason and I here on Texas and Bigfoot Michigan Rob's channel. You'll probably be seeing them on our channel showing up every now and then because they are our friends.
Yeah. That's probably good. I should probably say that. Yeah, there's no drama here.
No drama. We're still friends, and we're gonna have them on our show. They're probably gonna have us, popping up on their show every now and then. And we're still a network. We're still a group of friends. We're just expanding.
Yeah, we're just changing up how we're just doing a few things for this channel. It's going to go a slightly different way. We're not dropping paranormal or anything, but we are expanding. There's different conversations that need to be had, and honestly, we don't want to get Tex in trouble. Let's be honest.
Honestly, right? That's kind of a big reason, because I was like, I need to start my own channel, because Tex said, all right, little secret, guys, Tex had actually offered for me to do my own show on his channel, but I was like, I'll get him in trouble. I ain't gonna let that happen to Tex. So I was like, let me do my own channel. That way, any kind of drama comes my way, it'll be all just on me.
Yeah, let's be honest. If anyone's going to start a drama with YouTube, it's going to be Donnie.
Yeah,
he's a good boy on my show. He was a good boy on my show, so I think he can handle it.
Oh, I am not going to be a good boy on my show. That's for sure. No.
Nope.
It's going to be a race to see how quickly I can get canceled. Actually.
Wow.
So. All right. Donnie said he wanted to go ahead and sort of take over, because a lot of this first hour is going to be me explaining what the heck we're even talking about. So I will let him take over. I'm going to sit here and just smile and nod.
So the reason for Marquise and I to be on here for this conversation is because we are just going to listen. We are going to react. We're going to ask questions for the first hour, because a while back, Jason, you and I, we were talking on the phone one-on-one. And you explained to me, because, as you guys have been following Jason and I on this show, you know that we do like to talk about biblical topics. And there were a couple times where we did bring up the topic of the book of Revelations, but the specific topic of the number 666 was never brought up. So one day when we were talking, I asked Jason what his actual thoughts on the number 666 that does appear in the book of Revelations, because it is, to the layman like myself, is pretty, I guess, vague. The meaning is a bit obtuse or obscure. And so I asked him one day. So Jason not only told me his theory, which I thought was real fascinating and real plausible, but he also told me the story about how he came about that theory through his research, which was almost just as fascinating. And that's when we were discussing show topics for today. I was thinking we got to do that topic, because I remember during that conversation, Jason, you and I, when you told me your theory, I was like, that's got to be a podcast topic we got to do. So our time's a little bit limited. So this is one of the things that I've always wanted to hear Jason tell as part of my bucket list for this show. So Jason, you may take it from here.
All right. So very, very quickly, there's a direction we're going to go. Again, what the mark is, we kind of need to, I want to address it quickly, and we can come back to that later, because what we're really narrowing in on is a little different, right? So let me, of course, I have my little sound thing here, and it's in the way. I can't even see my little clicker things here. There we are. So let me very, very quickly, I'll just read. It's Revelations chapter 13, verses 11 through 18. And I want to, the context of this is really important, particularly when you get to what I think is a bit of a hidden message within the number itself. So let me just go ahead and read it. Then I saw another beast coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. And he exercises all of the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell with except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Very quickly, everyone refers to the mark of the beast as if it's one thing. And it's very, very clear here. It's not. There's 3 different categories of the mark of the beast. Now, the worst part is it may be that these are just like 3 larger categories, and there's even subsets of this, right? There's the mark, the name of the beast, and the number of his name. So whenever the Bible, Revelation in general is weird, but whenever something really weird is done, we're supposed to look at it and say, okay, it's weird for a reason. It's being called out, right? So when it says, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and then gives us the number, it is telling us, look closer at this. This is not an obvious thing, right? We're supposed to look into it. Now, yes, the number 666 is, there's a gematria, which is what everyone throws at it, right? And that is definitely going to be a part of it. I'm right there with you. But there's something else that happens in the book of Revelation that a lot of people miss, and a lot of that is because of our broader context, right? Our more modern context. But it's not in this section here, right? Let me pull that back up. It's later in the book, right? Jesus himself is talking. It's in Revelation 22:13. He says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Okay? Fairly common, everyone sort of knows this verse. What most people don't realize is it is actually, Jesus is quoting Isaiah 48:12, where it says, listen to me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. I am he, this is God speaking. I am the first and also the last. Jesus is quoting or referencing Isaiah 48:12 in this. And here's why that's important. When he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and last, Alpha and Omega, this is Greek, right? This whole book is written in Greek. In the Hebrew language, and this really requires its own episode, and we'll do that on the channel as a short. There is a word that will be in the Old Testament that is not translated in most English Bibles because the entire concept of what the word is doesn't make sense in English, right? It sort of like reinforces who's performing an action. It is Aleph and Tav. It's et, right? That's how you would pronounce it. Jesus is pointing to that word when he says this. He says, I'm the Alpha, because it's the first and last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph and Tav. It's et. Isaiah was written in Paleo-Hebrew, not even modern Hebrew, but Paleo-Hebrew. So Jesus is pointing back to when he's calling himself the Alpha and the Omega, he's not pointing to Greek. He's actually, and if you were Hebrew reading this, you would understand, he's pointing to the Paleo-Hebrew version of this word. He is saying, I am this word, but there's an image within that word. I want to go ahead and throw this up real quick. Most people are familiar with like Hebrew, modern Hebrew, with the way it looks. Paleo-Hebrew is very, very different. They were essentially pictograms. Each one, so they're still letters, right? This is not hieroglyphics, but they were sort of derived from hieroglyphs. These are letters, though. Aleph is the head of a bull. That's what it's based on, and it actually is where we get the letter A from, actually. But this is the Paleo-Hebrew version of it. Tav is the last letter. It is literally a cross. I tend to have it more on its side. That's the earlier version of it, but it literally means a mark, mark, sign, covenant, but it literally means a crossed sticks. That's literally what the image is, right? So in Paleo-Hebrew, the letters themselves don't just have sounds, but they have ideas behind them as well. So when Jesus says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, he's quoting, or he's referencing this word, et, However, this is the visual meaning behind that phrase, which is, I am the bull. Bulls were the sacrifice of peace between man and God in the Old Testament. And of course, the New Testament, Christ was on, he was executed on the cross. He is saying that he was both of those things. There's a visual story that's happening here that we only get in this context. So when it comes to the question of 660 and 6, let's take a step back to why, while I was researching this, I was working on a comic and I wanted to make an allusion to this. And so, but everyone does like, some version of the Arabic numeral 6, what we use as a number. And so it ends up looking like this, right? 666. And a lot of people have tried to say, oh, well, this is how it would be rendered, right? With the W's, with the Vavs.
Yeah. I heard that theory on the internet. That was all over for like in the early 2000s, the WWW being the Roman numerals representing 666. Yeah.
Right. Or that they would be the Tav, right? Yeah. Because that's what they would look like. The problem is that's not how you would get the Tav does mean 6, but that's not how you would get 660 and 6 in Hebrew, right? Again, as I mentioned earlier, it was written in Greek on the right. That's the top is from the Codex Vaticanus, which is like from 350 AD. That's the Greek 660 and 6. And then below it is an earlier papyrus. Again, it's the same thing. It's Greek. That's what it looks like. That's what John wrote, right? But you would not render the Hebrew version of 660 and 6 like this at all, like 3 Tavs. That's not how it would work. And so I was wanting to be a little special. I'm like, well, let me see, how would you write that out in Hebrew, right? And then take it to Paleo Hebrew and see if I can do something artistically with it, with what I was working on. Now, how would you render 666 and 6 in Hebrew? Now, real quick for everyone who's watching, unfortunately, if you're listening on KPNL or Odyssey, you really need to hop over to Texas Front Porch or Jason McLean Questions Everything on YouTube to watch this, because this is all going to be lost. Now, Hebrew is read right to left. We read left to right. So I reversed this just to make everything easier on ourselves. Okay, that's what this is. I know, just for the record, I know that Hebrew is read right to left. I've reversed it just so we're all on the same page. So you would write it out, the number 400, the number 200, the number 600, and then 6, right? So it's Tav, Resh, Semek, and Vav. That is 666 in modern Hebrew. Okay. This is what that looks like in Paleo Hebrew. It is, again, Tav, the cross, Resh, which is the head of a man, and it means head, right? It's Samek, which is essentially, it doesn't quite look like it, but it's a hand on a staff. It means to prop, right? Or to hold up. And the Vav is a nail. That's what it means. So visually, it's a cross, the head of a man. Again, the cross means a mark. It also means, again, it literally is just a cross. So it can mean mark, it can mean cross. The Resh is the head of a man, or just the head. Samek is to prop, right? To prop up, like a man holding on a staff or leaning on that staff, or to elevate. And then the Vav is literally a nail. That's what it is visually. And I was looking at this, and all of a sudden, you're probably seeing it already. There's so many, it's clear what's being said here in this number itself, right? It's the story of Jesus, right? On the cross, right? That's obvious. But it's also, again, that letter Tav also means to mark. In fact, and if you're like, well, maybe Jason's fibbing on that one, go and look up the Passover artwork that people that Hebrews and people of Jewish descendants will use today for Passover. One thing they'll do is they'll make, again, it's the modern letter for Tav, but they will make that, and they'll do it like it's out of blood, as a way of saying, when they would put the blood on the doorpost and lintels, because they'll even say, Tav means to mark. So it's a mark that goes on the forehead. It is something that props up, and again, a nail, but it's also the story of Jesus, cross, man, elevated or propped up with nails. And so I think personally, one of the hidden secret messages of 666 is that this beast of the earth, the false prophet, is literally going to claim to be Jesus. That's the imagery here. And again, no big, I mean, if you're into it, it's no real big revelation, because a lot of people have come to this conclusion just from the plain text, right, of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very, very clear that in this image, it is confirming that he's going to pretend to be Jesus. That's going to be his claim. But also drives home, again, it's a mark on the forehead and on the hand, which is being propped. And again, the idea of the nail. What's the nail doing? It's being driven into something. So within this image of what 666 would be written out as Paleo Hebrew is a message of what of what this thing is, and but also who's going to be presenting it as this mark. Like, who's really going to, like, the person who's going to claim that you need to take this, what is he claiming to be? He's claiming to be Jesus on earth. And again, very clearly, the mark, there's three different types of the mark. There's the mark, the name, and then the number of the name as well. So it's not going to be just one. Everyone's looking for the one thing. It ain't just the one thing. It's three different things. But the person who's going to say, we need to do this, he isn't just going to be saying, hey, here's a good idea. He's going to be saying, I'm Jesus, and I'm telling you, take this mark.
Wow. Well, is this commentary time, or?
Yeah, no, go for it.
No,
yeah,
please.
Yeah, if I need half an hour to explain this, then I shouldn't be on the show.
Well, no. You know, this kind of makes me wonder about the idea of this grand delusion, this great delusion that's going to accompany this person, right? That's going to help assist this whatever person or being, whatever, to convince those, even the elect, to believe that this is the Savior. And I mean, I've always been concerned about when this happens, or whether or not we're going to be alive or not. But my concern is that there are a lot of people who don't believe in religion at all,
right? That
I think will now be convinced by potentially this being easily, because they're non-believers and they don't have the historical context. They don't have the biblical context of what this potential being is, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, we have the Christians, those who say they are Christian, who will also be deceived because they're focused on what power this person has.
Correct.
The delusion, the great delusion. Today, we see people who are easily convinced by anyone who has even the a modicum of truth. But as we can see, they also they kind of exhibit this other characteristic that is the worldly one of possessions, material wealth, and so forth. And I don't need to get into that, but you get who I'm talking about. Now add to that power. Now we have the great delusion of all these people who are going to believe when someone comes forward and claims to be Jesus, he's showing power, is making claims, and is probably in a position of wealth, most likely.
Yep.
We're going to see a lot of people, Christian and otherwise, who are just going to fall victim to that delusion easily. Yes.
Oh, real quick. Glenn points out he thought that 666 meant Nero. It's a long-standing theory that that the Book of Revelation is nothing more than social commentary hidden behind apocalyptic language.
Right. So
here's the problem. There is a lot there. The problem is, this is one of those topics where you have to come at it from that perspective to get that reading. Yes, Nero's name can be rendered out as 666, right? The thing is, though, a lot of names can, which is why this is it's very clear they're calling out, this is not just gematria. It's telling you to look at something deeper, right? And again, you can go look at the book, that I did years ago on the Revelation 12 alignment. It's clear this is a prophetic book. But the thing that we often miss is that the spirit of the Antichrist has been in the world for thousands of years. The reason things seem to cycle over and over again, people do the same things over and over again, is because that spirit is trying to do this over and over and over again. And he uses the same symbols over and over and over again, because what he's trying to do is what he did at the beginning. And which is why everything seems to follow the same patterns, is because it's the same spirit. And so, yeah, Nero probably had the same Antichrist spirit, and there are signs. It's not just a one-time thing. It is something we're supposed to be seeing in our, in the world. But we need to understand it's also for a time in the future that we're coming very close to, where it's going to be done. Like, this is it.
Can I ask you a quick question, actually?
Yeah,
so
please.
when you were, I guess, interpreting what the story behind the
Mhm.
666 was implying, was that something would appear as Christ?
Yes.
What if it was more like something was appearing as the body of Christ, as in
The
the
multitude
church,
of people. Yeah.
Mhm.
the church
and
itself, the
yeah.
institution of Christ
Oh,
that is masquerading, and that is actually, deceiving people.
Mhm. So you're not wrong. There are a lot of people have pointed to that, because again, in the metaphor of beasts in both the book of Daniel and Revelation, which is important because Daniel is the thing that allows you to decode the book of Revelation, right? For those who don't know, there's a scene in at the end of the book of Daniel where Daniel is looking at this powerful angel who has his foot on the sea and in the land. And there's two other figures in white linen next to him, and he raises his hand and says, "I'll be time, and half a time," right? And then Daniel's like, "So what am I supposed to do here?" He goes, "Just seal up the prophecies, and you're done." That scene plays out in the book of Revelation a little differently, because there's the angel, there's the powerful angel, and then there's John, and then there's the angel that's guiding him. And a lot of people say, well, there's no two angels. Daniel's looking at that scene. Literally, Daniel is watching that scene with John play out. John's one of the men in linen that's talking to this powerful angel. It connects the books. The book of Daniel is the thing that is the decoder ring for the book of Revelation. So when we get to beasts, they are not just individuals. They are the systems, like a nation, right?
Right.
Or a system that oversees people. So it's not just that the beast is a person, it is a person and that system. So a lot of people have pointed to again the lamb, which is the beast of the earth, and said, hey, this looks like a false religious system, but it's very clearly pointing to the idea of Christianity, right? So again, Protestants for centuries have said it must be the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has said it's the Protestant Church. There's a lot of back and forth, but the broader point is you're not off mark. It is also, it's not just a gentleman, it is a system that is claiming to be this thing as well.
Doesn't it sound like, I mean, to me, I've always thought this, that the Catholic Church is, I don't want to put a whole, religion on blast here, but it kind of sounds like the Catholic Church. I mean, they have a completely different perspective about the Bible than what the Bible says. Their traditions and the way they practice Christianity is vastly different than what people do when they read the Bible. The Bible doesn't mention, for example, the praying to Mary, and of course, if you look at the Catholic Church itself, the imagery that's very satanic in nature, and then of course, I don't want to get into that now, but the recent revelations involve the fact that the Catholic Church is aware of this other thing that's going on in the world and has kept that thing secret from the world. They seem to be.
We can go there later.
We can go there later, but I'm not. I don't want to. But there are a lot of there, and then of course we have the issue with the Catholic Church that is, the issue that the Catholic Church has when it comes to young people, and so all these things they treat the Pope like he's a god, like he is Jesus to them. Yes. And so when I think about the possibility, and I don't have the intricate knowledge of these different, biblical translations that you're talking about right now. I don't have that. Of course, I understand that you're talking about the translations of the text, but I don't know anything about that. So I'm trying to extrapolate meaning from what you're saying. And from what I understand, and for what I'm kind of speculating that it could be the Catholic Church. If we're talking about systems, potentially, I don't know for sure, but it would be something like the Catholic Church, which is a system that's set up in contrast to Christianity as it is biblically, and the Pope, right? The Pope,
So,
a Pope-like figure.
Yeah. A lot of people have pointed to that for a very long time. Again, particularly in the Protestant world, right? That said, hey, this is, in fact, most Protestants will say they believe that the false prophet will be the Pope, right?
Right.
Where and one of the reasons they'll point to Revelation when it talks about the city, the whore of Babylon, which is a city that sits on 7 hills, right? Or the 7 heads of the dragon. And they're like, well, Rome is the city of 7 hills. Here's the thing. It's sort of easy to do it when it's politically convenient to point there. I would suggest there's one that's, you're not wrong. It's a part of it, but that's not, and we've talked about this before. It is the city that's being referred to, I believe, is actually Mecca, because it's not just, everyone says, well, it's the city of 7 hills. Well, hold up. Those, when it's decoding the 7 heads, right? He says these are 7 mountains and the kings. Well, that's a different thing, right? Again, we have to use, right. Yeah. Daniel is our decoder ring for the book of Revelation. What does a mountain mean in the book of Revelation? They're empires. So these 7 heads are individuals and their empires that it's uniting around. So again, that's a whole other conversation. The point is, it's going to, I think it's going to actually be Mecca. I think it's a much better description for what it's said. However, my point is, it talks about, let me bring the text back up so I can read it precisely, because a lot of people have talked about that, right? Which is that, he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs, which he has granted to do in the sign of the beast, He causes all, both small and great, rich or poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, etc. What's happening here is everyone is going to be worshiping the Antichrist and that system specifically. So whatever this, I would suggest that whatever this is, it's not going to be, oh, look, it's Catholics. This is a one world religion that is coming, and it's going to unite every religion, right? We're already seeing, and again, going back to the Catholic Church, they are pushing a unification. There are people within the Catholic Church pushing what's called Chrislam, which is a unification of Christianity and Islam. And if you understand those 2 philosophies at all, those just don't match at all. So the issue here is, it's going to, they're trying to push this idea. And again, the current Pope has talked about how, the Quran is prophetic and it's the word of God. Like he's on board with this idea of this unification, but it's not going to be just Islam and Catholicism. It's going to be everyone's religion. So this the false prophet will literally claim to be Jesus. That's, again, I'd come to that conclusion before I saw the image, but once I saw the image decoded, I'm like, oh, that is exactly what's happening here. That's exactly who this is.
So then what are you postulating? Like, ultimately, what are you suggesting here? Aside from what you just did, right? You're suggesting something, and I'm curious as to what you're suggesting. Yeah.
So I would suggest this. At the end, right, when Christ returns and actually starts kicking butt and taking names, the Antichrist and the false prophet themselves are thrown bodily into the lake of fire immediately. No books are open. They are not judged. They go immediately. Go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, right? Humans are judged. They are not. I don't think they're human. I think when we get to the beast, right, the Antichrist, he's not going to be a human. He'll be a Nephilim. And I would suggest the same thing with the false prophet. He's going to be a form of Nephilim. I think these are going to be Nephilim bodies that the Antichrist spirit and another spirit, probably even the spirit of religion, will inhabit to physically manifest themselves on the earth and do what they're going to do. And the false prophet will claim to be Jesus. He will descend, right? We see this in the book of Daniel. It talks about the abomination of desolation coming down on wings of desolation. I think we're going to, and again, I do tie all this to the UFO phenomena. I think we're going to see them. Yeah. We're going to see UFOs, and a dude who's going to claim to be Jesus is going to walk out and be like, I'm Jesus, I'm alive, and here's what we're going to do now.
I don't want to put. I like Stephen Bassett. Just so that we understand here clearly. I've spoken to him. I've interviewed him, but he mentioned during my podcast when I interviewed him, he doesn't care if it's the Antichrist or whatever. He just wants whatever's coming to unify the world and for this phenomenon to finally be in public view and accepted by the mass. And I found that a little terrifying. Obviously, as a Christian myself, I found that terrifying. Because we got a person here who's claiming, even if it's the Antichrist himself, it would be acceptable because it's ushering in this disclosure about non-human intelligences here on the planet. You apply that to the UFO community, and by the way, the UFO community, we're not even allowed to mention the word religion on my show, on the weekend show in SOR. Can't mention it. The chat can't handle it. But at the same time, the people that are in the chat treat the UFO phenomena as if it's a religion. Like the aliens are their god, and if you talk bad about their god, they attack you. I'm personally aware of this because I've personally received a lot of backlash for even mentioning the connection between religion and the phenomena. And so I feel like there have been mentions of this parasitic entity that is involved with the phenomena recently, even more so. And so, meaning that this phenomena is purposefully causing chaos on this planet, using our negativity and chaos as a means to feed off of. Right? They've been influencing humanity towards its own chaos. Literally, that's what we're being told by people that are involved with the phenomena. That's the fear of disclosure. And so, if you couple these things together, you've got a very powerful possibility here about a powerful entity involved with the phenomena that, by the way, has been mentioned by Jacques Vallée as one entity expressing itself as multiple phenomena. For the sake of manipulating social and cultural aims, like for its own purposes. This has already been postulated. So to me, I've accepted this, of course, as a Christian. It's Satan and his fallen angels and the demons, or what Nephilim as well, because we got interbreeding, there's genetic material taken. It is all there. The stage is set.
The
stage
100%.
Is set.
And that's the thing, right? A lot of people, like if you were to get Giorgio Tsoukalos aliens, right, and me at a table, we would agree on this sentence. The pilots of the UFOs today, again, for the ones that aren't military machines, but the truly exotic, the truly bizarre materials, right? The real UFOs, the pilots of those craft and those beings are the same as the angels and gods of the past. We would completely agree on that sentence. The difference is, I think we got it right the first time. And he would say, no, we just didn't understand it. Right. We were too primitive to understand what was really happening. And I think that is sort of the issue here, that it's very difficult to talk about.
That's the hubris of modernity is what that is.
No, exactly.
Thank you.
That's
exactly.
Excellent.
It's the hubris of modernity, which is that we think we understand things better now, even though in many ways we have a much more simplistic view of the universe than our ancestors did. Even 150 years ago, people had a much more nuanced understanding of the world than we do, because we're like, well, no, we can put things in beakers and we can light things on fire. We can call people. So clearly we know the world better.
Real quick. So then, and once Jason and Giorgio agree on that sentence, I would go out of that room for like a bathroom break, come back 5 minutes later, and Jason's got Giorgio Tsoukalos in a headlock. And he's just like punching him.
All
the furniture smashed.
Nolan Ryaning him.
Wow. Here's the thing about this. It's what I feel like I kind of feel I'm concerned personally. I'm concerned because, especially with you, I mean, again, you're not, it's not like I'm not, although I'm not familiar with all of the data you're referring to, especially when it comes to these translations. I'm not familiar with them at all. I'm definitely familiar with your hypotheses, or at least your conclusion about the data that you're presenting with us today.
Yeah.
And as it relates to the phenomena, I think that, again, the stage is set. But my concern is that it's going to get more and more dangerous for people with views like us, I believe, because we don't have this godlike view of the phenomena. You talked about how scientists they look back and they say, oh, they misinterpreted what the mystics and the prophets said in olden times.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're also saying is that the mystics and the prophets of olden time were onto something. And now although scientists reached the pinnacle, at least it appears to us, they have to adopt a mystical approach when studying the phenomena, because it acts as if it's mystical in essence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're admitting this. Leslie Keane, for example, is looking into life after death, and the fact that there is a link between the phenomena and their interest in human consciousness, which is what we would call the soul, the part of you that exists after death, the part of you that is beyond the physical body. She's connecting, she's conjoining these two. There's an intersection of this two, and there's also abductees, right, who claim that this phenomena, these beings, are interested in the human soul. Again, there's a lot of data and scientific speculation about the fact that this phenomena is interested in our soul, human souls.
Yes. Well, it was I just realized Whitley Strieber. Yeah, Whitley Strieber, right? The gentleman who his wife flat out said, whatever this abduction thing is, she believes that the whole phenomena is connected. And her words were, the phenomena we call death. Right. Joshua Cutchins does a great job in Ecology of Souls of discussing this topic, saying, hey, this stuff is connected to the human soul and death one way or the other. There are themes, there's imagery, and it just keeps popping up over and over and over again. Right. Whatever this, again, from that sort of objective viewpoint that we can take without, obviously once you step into a religious viewpoint, which I have, you're like, well, I know what these things are. But if you just from what we can see, step out of that viewpoint for a second, whatever this stuff is, it is very clearly aimed at the human soul.
Right.
Right. They are fairly clearly wanting and connected to death. And it has been interacting with us for thousands of years, because you can, again, Dean and I've talked about this ad nauseum on Mysterious Library. The connection between alien abduction and Fae lore is 1 to 1.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's the same. It's clearly the same phenomena.
Yeah.
So again, we'll definitely get to everyone's questions in the second hour like we normally do, but there's one I want to get to real quick. So Dimios Mars says, I think the Antichrist will be an AI personally, or tied to it in some way. And Magneticus Attracticus points out that he says AI is the beast, like gasoline motors are called iron horses. What are your thoughts on that one?
Oh my gosh, I will try my very best to be brief. Okay, I don't want to take over this show.
Well, we have a second hour, so it's fine.
So, what is it, Moloch, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about what AI, the potential for AI is. Okay, a human child, when it's born, it takes a few years for it to start to acclimate to what we generally understand as culture and mindsets and whatever. Whatever. Okay, it adopts whatever culture it's in. But it does it in a single lifetime over a few years, and then eventually it becomes autonomous when you become an adult, and it takes well into your 20s before you become truly autonomous and intellectually as well, and aware of your place in this world. You're understanding what your place is, developing your thinking processes, as well as your beliefs about the world. And so you orient according to what your perception and your translation of your experience is. I hope this makes sense. The problem is that it takes us 20 plus years to figure this out. The brain doesn't stop developing until 26, and even then it continues to develop afterwards. And when we have children, every generation, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is maybe that technology allows us to have access to more information, which gives us a greater understanding of more things. But ultimately, you're still developing yourself into your 20s, mid-20s, and beyond. Here's the problem. AI can do all of that in a moment of time. They've taught AI how to do things like learn how to play a chess game, Chinese checkers, or CS:GO.
Yeah.
And then when it learns it, its children will automatically have the right. We can give it the neural connections, at least technologically. The algorithms. It doesn't need to learn it all over again, and it could learn it in a few days. Now you give it another game, and because it has that knowledge of how to do that one thing with artificial general intelligence, which is the ability to take a learned skill and apply some of that understanding to other skills and exponentially grow in intelligence.
Yes.
Overnight. That's the beginning, because what we're looking at is what they call the singularity. Now, everybody thinks the singularity is, human. We're going to merge with technology. That is not what singularity means.
No, it does not.
It's not. It's a point at which technology is so exponentially, like it grows so exponentially that in a moment, it will just develop thousands of times in itself, multiple times in itself, exponentially in a moment, and far exceed our capability to stop whatever it's in whatever it wants to do in an instant. And if we continue to give it that capability, it will be godlike in an instant. And we're talking small g God, by the way. Let's just be clear here.
Right. Yeah.
But that's the potential of AI. That's the fear that people have of AI. The paperclip experiment
very founded. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, if we don't teach AI the value system of humanity, which that's all subjective, then we got a big freaking problem here. And by the way, just like iRobot, if it wants to, recently there was an article that said that AI pilot in a simulation, not real, it deleted its co-pilot, the human co-pilot. It deleted him because he was getting in the way of its objective of destroying a target. And that was teaching it how not to do the thing that it did. Imagine what it can do to humanity to obtain its objectives. And again, I'm just saying, you want to mention AI as the Antichrist? It is much more advantageous for AI needing us to maintain to sustain itself, to become godlike, or to be inhabited by the exponential intelligence growth, a non-human intelligence from another dimension, a demon or whatever, giving it that ability, of course. And then, of course, what it does.
Yeah. So that's where, again, I think AI will absolutely play a huge role in this. I still think there'll be a physical human body, right? Because it is discussed as a person. But that being said, we're seeing it now where AI is clearly interacting with something that is not physical, right? It is clearly interacting demonic. People are saying, hey, we're seeing this. And let's be honest, if you've used computers for the last 30 years, you thought they were possessed too. But it's the simple fact of the matter is, I do think, I think that the beast system is absolutely going to tie into AI is going to be a huge part of it. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if that Antichrist spirit is able to inhabit the digital space as well as a human body, right?
Can I tell you, I got to tell you something, because I think this adds to this whole idea here. There is a lady named Linda Porter. If you go YouTube her, you'll find out her story. But essentially, she said that she was abducted and that they were using human bodies as containers for the soul, containers to recycle souls inside of. Gary Nolan, the Stanford professor of immunology. I keep having to repeat, just in case you don't know, Google Gary Nolan, very reputable person. Doesn't mean he's impeccable, right? But he's reputable. And so this person, he claims that there's 100% with a 100% certainty at the SALT conference in front of all these different professionals and scientists and all that stuff, these leaders of in thought, 100% certainty there's non-human intelligence, but it's not necessarily biological. It's some kind of artificially created being that is biological but not sentient like we are. It's like an AI, an intermediary, because whatever the actual phenomena isn't what we're seeing flying through our skies. Which is exactly a correlation between what Jacques Vallée mentioned about an entity that essentially isn't able to interact with us, but creates an intermediary of whatever it wants to interact with us. It's like a super AI.
Yeah, no, precisely. I mean, this is, I thought, Dean's, he doesn't believe in singularity theory, or not singularity theory. I just forgot the word.
Simulation theory?
Simulation theory. Thank you. Yeah, he's like, I like it. We talk about this all the time. I like simulation theory as a metaphor. Right. For what's going on. Because I think the simple fact of the matter is the way the nature of the universe is it is so far outside of what we currently experience it as that we don't really understand it. And so I think the problem is the best we can do is metaphor for a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I would not be surprised at all if it is like there is just this, this one thing out there. And like you said, it's breaking itself up into multiple points, and you have these avatars in between. A lot of abductees have described that at least some of the grays are
like drones, automatons.
Yeah,
like they're
automatons. In fact, people who've claimed that they've had they've found bodies, so they don't look like they're naturally existing creatures, right? Again, this has been a claim that is made, but rather they look like biological robots.
Right. There you go. That's an easier biological robots. That's it.
Yeah. Now again, it's like, well, yeah, you create a physical body for a demon to inhabit.
Right. Container.
It's like, exactly. It's just a container. We're coming to the end of the hour real quick. So for anyone who had to hop off, if they can't be with us in the second hour, Marquise, can you tell everyone where and when to find you?
Again, you can find me on Twitch at Dimensions of Reality. That is where I primarily spend most of my life. So definitely check me out on Twitch at Dimensions of Reality. And then, of course, on the weekends, I'm on the After Hours show on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio YouTube channel. So you can check me out there, too.
Excellent. And Donnie, when might your channel be coming to the market now that you've teased us?
I'm thinking 2 weeks.
There you go.
That's soon.
I might even already have an episode floating out there if people would be so inclined to investigate and find out some, there might be an Easter egg floating out there in the internet. Just saying.
Just don't go to backpage.com. Is it just don't Donnie Cho?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a little Donnie Cho Easter eggs floating around in YouTube somewhere.
Oh man.
And again, if y'all have to hop out, if y'all can't stay in for the second hour, just a quick reminder: we have one more episode left, and then we're no longer the Wednesday show. But Danielle Diva will be taking Wednesdays over for us on this channel.
So I've noticed some people mentioned that I look like I've been deep in thought, and that is because for those of you who are thinking about staying for the second hour, I am going to start by giving my theory.
I'm curious too.
It's going to be
theory is a little bit different than yours, my friend.
It's always interesting. I know. That's why I'm curious.
So second hour, we're going to get to all of y'all's questions and comments, and Donnie we'll lead off with Donnie's view on this. So we'll see y'all in 5. Smoke him if you got him.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Welcome to the second hour. Before we bring everyone up, y'all know I like to do this. I like to say thank you. Y'all are why we do this. Y'all are the best audience on the internet. And I'll fight anyone who says it, who says otherwise. So we love y'all. We really do appreciate every single one of you. And we hope y'all join us over on Jason McLean Questions Everything. Again, we're not going anywhere. You will see us pop up, like stray dogs on on shows for Texas Front Porch. But as Be Kind has so lovingly pointed out, this is not drama. It's just growth. We're not leaving anything, but we are going to do things a little differently, and we're going to cover some topics differently. We're going to try and keep Tex out of trouble. So there you go. Now, again, for those on KPNL and Odyssey and all the others, do come over to YouTube. That's Texas Front Porch, TEX' Front Porch. We've got great shows like Texas Front Porch, Beyond BMR, Brunch with BMR with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. We've got Van Buren Varieties, the Blondes and the Booze, and then the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo. And I'll be on that Friday night this week. And again, Danielle Diva will be replacing us in 2 weeks. So again, we have got, this is the last, the next last episode. We got one more episode left, and then we leave you in her capable hands. Now, let us bring back the infamous Donnie Cho, who, by the way, Lavera Lucchini says, because you are naughty, Cho.
I have been known sometimes.
This is why you have to have your own channel, and why we can't have nice things. And of course, we're joined by Marquis Williams from SOR, and they can find you on Twitch as well.
Twitch, Dimensions of Reality on Twitch. Check me out.
Excellent.
Love to see you guys there.
Real quick, Raven Creek was referencing Donnie when he talked about how Donnie would step out for a cigarette and come back, and I would have Giorgio Tsoukalos in a headlock, Nolan Ryaning him. And for those of you sports fans know what I'm referring to. I would not mess up his hair. Raven Creek Charm says, don't mess up his hair. I physically couldn't mess up his hair. Do you know how much hair gel he has to have in that thing to go full Centauri like that?
Wow.
Wow. And only the Babylon 5 fans got what I just said. I
wouldn't want to touch his hair. His hair reminds me of something about Mary times 10.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Don't even oh my gosh, dude. What's wrong with you, man?
So many things, which is why he has to have his own channel. By the way, speaking of your own channel, people have pointed out, where'd he go? The Radio Vault has pointed out, that if you search for Donnie Cho, a bunch of Koreans show up.
Actually,
Use your link.
if you do a search of Donnie Cho, the first person that shows up is some like Korean American pastor who's apparently like a big deal and like does all these like sermons and has like all these YouTube appearances. So
what I'm hearing is there's a lot of knockoff Donnie Chos. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah, I'm just saying, you know, you're gonna have to dig a little harder. Is all.
Yep.
Dig harder. Get a bigger shovel, my friends.
When there is a link, we will drop it.
Mm-hmm.
We will drop it. So there you go. And again, that's why you got to go follow Jason McQueen Questions Everything, because we will release his link on there as well. So there you go.
I like not having to feel the pressure of promoting it. I'm just like, you know what? Don't even find me. I'm just gonna do my own thing. If you find me, you do. If you don't, you don't.
Wow. Get lucky.
Yeah.
That's how he rolls. Someone has pointed out that there it is. Magnus Zerum says, in relation to Giorgio Tsoukalos, he says he's not even in his final form.
This is even in my final form.
Exactly. Well, but here's the thing: neither am I. Bring it, Tsoukalos.
Okay. So earlier we were talking about simulation theory, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I actually don't like that word. I kind of dislike it. My personal views is more video games. We're not in a simulation. We're in a freaking video game, gentlemen. That it's different.
All right.
There's a difference. Okay.
Okay.
Simulations are what you run when you're looking for what if scenarios, or if you're
Right.
trying to gain just an experience for having an experience.
Mhm.
A video game is kind of like a simulation, except there's a purpose. There's a goal. There's points. There's winners. There's losers. There's attribute points. There's NPCs. There's a leaderboard. There's strategy guides. This is a video game, gentlemen. This is not a simulation. Okay, this ain't no Sims, right? This ain't no whack job game like that. No, this is a serious game, my friends.
Like an RPG.
Right? This is
like an RPG.
This
like
is
an
Super Mario,
like
the hidden levels.
MMORPG Mario. Yeah. Massive multiplayer online role playing.
No, this is Ninja Gaiden stuff right here, my friends.
Gaiden.
Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what this is. Okay. For example, if you look at the leaderboard, I'd say number 1 is Jesus, right? He's like the one with the million points. You look at it, you walk by the leaderboard, you're like, yo, look at that guy's high score. How'd that guy get like 10 million points in this game? That's ridiculous. That's Jesus. He's number 1 on the leaderboard.
Wouldn't he be like the golden you know, like in Ready Player One, was it the golden egg, I believe? Wouldn't he be like
well,
that?
yeah, that's why he's got the highest score. But then the Bible is like the strategy guide.
You know, your commentary here is actually frighteningly salient.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hold on.
Angels, they're the system moderators.
Yeah.
Wow, this guy.
See, here's the thing. We've actually talked about this in the show. You're taking it one step further than I have. I usually use this sort of in a way of understanding us in relation to higher, to these higher dimensional beings, angels, and beings, like equating us to Mario. But yeah, your metaphor here, taking it that next step, that's
demons are
insightful.
the former moderators who got pissed off at their employer and now are just trying to troll the game.
I thought maybe they'd be like the bugs of the system. Maybe.
Yeah.
But
no, the bugs, those are more ghosts. Like ghosts, things like
these are like
Mandela effect. Those are more like the bugs in the system,
right?
The soul is actually, so the physical body is like the avatar, but the soul is the actual player.
Yeah.
All right, this is interesting.
I've used that metaphor too. I like where you're going with this, dude. You're not
people
wrong.
who get into the occult and try to mess around with like dark magic stuff. Those are people who are trying to cheat.
They're
trying to apply a cheat code.
They got Game Shark playing in that.
But you don't get number 1 on the leaderboard.
Up, down, left, right.
Yeah, you can't cheat your way up to the leaderboard, because eventually the moderator is going to find you, and then you're going to get booted from the game.
Yeah.
Dang. All right.
Huh. You know what? Yeah, like I said, we've used this metaphor on the show a number of times. But yeah, you took it one step further than I have. I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Extraterrestrials are hackers from another server who are here to just muck with the game, and they're probably in league with those disgruntled former moderators. Wow. They're probably egging each other on, those jerks.
This is clever.
Okay, I like that one. That's funny. I like
It's
it.
a video game, my friends. It's not a simulation. Screw that simulations theory. That's basic, son.
Well, let me add some
I like that.
commentary. That's actually really clever. I think that's super clever, man. I like how you've assigned like different roles for different and associated them with different programming language. If you're talking about gaming language or whatever, it's awesome. Here's my go ahead. You're gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say my final thing was reincarnation. Reincarnation is after the avatar dies in the game. The soul steps away from that arcade machine, and the afterlife is just this giant video arcade. And the soul's like, man, that game sucked. Okay, let's try this game over here. Let's put my quarter over in this one.
This guy's wow.
You went from that's funny.
Okay, no more Ninja Turtles. Now I'm going to go over to that Star Wars game over there. Now I'm going to go get my butt kicked in Street Fighter.
Wow. Well, we don't have enough information to know whether or not after the simulation ends or the game ends, when there's game over, whether or not we'll actually be able to choose a different game. We have plenty of people who claim that we can, but I think that's really interesting. The one thing that I think is most concerning is the fact that if you were to compare simulation versus game, depends on there's a lot of factors to consider, but like it does seem more like a game because there is a directive, there is a goal for each of us, right? And there are seemingly there are elements of the game that are trying to stop you from achieving whatever the goal, the aim is, and you don't even know what that goal is at first. You have to learn it throughout your time. You have to level up. You've got to learn reading and studying and stuff like that. You can't just go off at first and you have level 50, skills. You got to grind. You got to grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. And and even if you do, there's still no way of telling whether you can win. The reason why I say massive online role-playing game is because you're competing against everyone else as well. You can develop your clans, or you can develop, you can go be a part of a party or whatever. But ultimately, you're in this alone. Somebody's got to win. There is an end game. That's interesting. Here's what I want to mention about that, and there are some very interesting understandings about biology that suggest that we are just very advanced mechanical, beings, literally mechanical. The way that the protein builds, the way that, for example, DNA instructs proteins to build and so forth, and how everything essentially has its own directive within our body and is built literally and at a microscopic level. It's like it's building like through chains, so to speak. Literally, if you watch how these things happen. And so in each vector or whatever has its own directive. It's bizarre. And every single copy of every person, it doesn't deviate from the original code, essentially. So it is possible that we are in some kind of, you can say video game to be, since Donnie Cho wants to be the antagonist to these scenarios all the time. Or you can say simulation, whichever you prefer. But ultimately, it does appear that there is a complex quantum computer running in this reality. It does.
Well, and again, the more we look into quantum physics, that's one of the things I don't like to get too far into because I'm not educated enough on it. I am looking into it, but
none of us
they're
are.
Basically, well, even the physicists looking into it aren't educated. Even they're like, we don't know. But essentially, they're starting to become evidence that, again, reality is not a localized phenomena like we've always thought, that it's non-localized, which goes back to, well, if that's the case, then you're just rediscovering theism. That's always been my thing is, well, what if it's a simulation theory? I'm like, well, then you're just rediscovering theism. Congratulations. You're 4,000 years behind. Right. But real quick, to your point, our universe seems it literally does seem programmed, as is our body. It's informational. For Donnie, I guess it's for all of us, but I'd like to start with Donnie since he's the one who went there. Larry Metzner asks, who is the programmer?
I think we all know who that is.
Well, that would be. Yeah. Well, do we? Because in the beginning, right, the Bible, God says, "Let us make man in our image," and I can't get that out of my head. The idea that there's a reference to multiple different beings in the beginning, and there's a lot of speculation. You're probably aware, Jason. There are the Trinity, people who believe in the Trinity, and that's who was there in the beginning. But I don't know if that's the case, because there's references also to the fact that the sons of God were there to watch the creation of the earth and mankind.
Mhm.
There are biblical references to that as well. I don't even know who the sons of God are. Like, I don't know. Does that mean angels? Is there a differentiation between angels and sons of God? Well, the devil, for Satan, Lucifer, right, sought counsel. He sought to be in the presence of God for the purpose of convincing him to let him mess with Job. He was there with the sons of God. They were there as well. Why were they there? Who are they? What are they? They're obviously not human, but they're able and capable to interbreed with us because they had in Genesis chapter 6. There's a lot of interesting things to consider when it comes to like who created, who's running the simulation.
Well,
I don't.
Yeah, now this is going to be an entire episode because we're going to do more things. Marquise, you're we'll be definitely having you back on.
Awesome. Yeah.
But we will do explorations of this, but I think this goes back to the issue is onto your questions again, because I want to get to everyone's questions and comments here. There is one of the issues that we have in modernity is we do not have the same mindset of the people who were reading the Old Testament and then creating the New Testament, right?
Right.
We don't have those things in our heads. Heiser has done again, rest in peace. The late Michael Heiser has done a lot of work on the Deuteronomy 32 worldview, which is breathtaking. And his whole point is the idea of the divine counsel is all throughout the Bible. It means it looks very strange to us because we have a modern conception of God's there and God's doing everything. That was not the Old Testament view. In fact, everyone sort of had a very similar view, which is, yes, there is the creator God, right? Unless certain pantheons, that's a whole other subject. But the point is, the Old Testament mind, there was the creator God, there was Jehovah, Yahweh, and he was species distinct, right? He was the Elohim. And then you had Elohim or sons of God, same thing. They're used interchangeably beneath him. And they are of the same idea, meaning that they are of that side of the veil, but they are not him. He created, but then everyone else has roles and authorities beneath him. And he wants everyone to fulfill their role. One of the issues is we stopped fulfilling our role in Eden, right? Adam was also a son of God, meaning he was created directly by God. And this is why his offspring are sons of Adam or sons of man. So it seems like, again, the Old Testament setup is there is God, he creates everything, but he has a system and everyone has a job to do, has roles and authorities, and he wants direct interaction with us and with his own creation, right? And again, there's a lot of theories as to who is the we. Is he referring to the angels, or is he referring to the broader Trinity? Because the Trinity is not necessarily a New Testament concept. A lot of people, again, Heiser himself has pointed out that the two powers in heaven, it's right there. Again, we miss it in English, but it's classic Hebraic thought that there is the Jehovah or Yahweh that is unseen, and then there is a Jehovah or Yahweh that is seen, right? And that they are two distinct things, but they are still the one thing, right? That's in the Old Testament. It is, in fact, Isaiah has both the unseen and the seen Jehovah, and then you have the Holy Spirit. So again, Heiser has done amazing work on that. I recommend that because that's taking way too far off of the beaten trail for the show. But yeah, it's like that concept was there. So people have suggested it, but even Heiser will say he thinks he's referencing the angels themselves as sort of we're going to do this. But what's interesting is it is then God who does everything, right? Right. He doesn't use their help. He's sort of like, I am engaging y'all, but I'm going to be the one to do it.
Well, that's kind of, again, my thought process about this is that when we're looking at the phenomena, because I think that it's whatever happened thousands of years ago is happening today. There's no difference. It's just that now we're looking at it from a different perspective. We're looking at it from the perspective of modern science and modern culture versus the mysticism of the old, right? That what people thought of through their meditations and prayers, and their deeper, mystical connections to God and other beings from other places. There's a verse that really gets me in the Bible that I cannot forget. Somebody posted. There's a Facebook. There's a guy. Oh my gosh, what's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Oh my gosh, I got to look him up too. But I'll tell you in just a second. But either way, he does this entire series where he talks about the fallen angels and what their job, how they're here to deceive us, and
Mhm.
all this stuff. But he also connects it to the UFO phenomena and the extraterrestrials and all that stuff. And he asks a question: where is heaven? Is it localized here somewhere, like in space or whatever?
Mhm.
And then people were literally mincing the Bible verses, mincing them, cutting off what I thought were the most important and relevant parts of the Bible. And one of the
Yeah.
verses that I remember, I can't forget, is that when Jesus says the kingdom of heaven is within you
Mhm.
and all around you, that would suggest that what does that sound like to you? It sounds like that there is an existence, a realm that exists right here outside of our perception. It's just not here within our perception, another dimension, if you will. It's just
Yeah.
a parallel, a literal parallel dimension. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, you can interpret it however you want to, but when you're looking at this from a scientific perspective, what is a parallel universe? It's a universe, a dimension that exists parallel to ours, right here, but like outside of the spectrum of perception that we have.
Well, and I think this goes back to, like, again, going back to the video game metaphor, and again, we've used it before. One of the things I talk about is, like, how would you explain our reality to Mario?
Right.
I think, like, the old 8-bit system, not like the new 3D one, but the old 8-bit system, where if you were to ask him, why don't you go around the pipes? He'd look at you like that word would have no meaning to him whatsoever. In the same way that if some higher dimensional being were to say, why don't y'all just go septward? We'd be like, what? Sept meaning 7, and it's like we would be like, what are you talking about? They would have I think this is one of those things where a lot of this stuff is God is trying to explain something to us that we fundamentally can't understand. And we have people who've had near-death experiences or angelic visits and visions of that side of the world, of the universe, and they're like, I can't even explain what I saw. Like our reality is so, but the one thing universally is, it's like you're waking up from a dream. Like, that's real. This isn't real. That's the one thing that everyone sort of universally who has these experiences has said is, this doesn't feel real. That felt real. So I think the issue, again, to your point, I agree with you. The thing is, we may not even conceive of the universe in a way where that would even make sense.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's dimensional. Like, that's the problem. Is like, well, is it up? Is it below?
I think
if it's dimensional, we may not even understand what that really means.
Yeah. That's
I think a lot of people forget the fact that every atom in the universe is pretty much 99.99999% empty space. That means all matter is that amount of empty space. It's like 99 endless 9% empty space. So there could be different, I guess, what's the word we talked about last time, Marquise? Densities of reality.
Densities of reality.
Might be a more accurate way of portraying it than just than using the word dimensions.
Yeah.
Because it could be occupying the same space in time. Maybe even the same universe, but it's just like a different frequency of matter.
Yeah, that's possible. That is very possible. I mean, again, when we're talking about these theoretical physics, and I'm an armchair philosopher, and so I'm only looking at this from that perspective, considering what physicists who do understand the math behind these possibilities have said. I don't have direct understandings of the physics behind these things. As a matter of fact, as you said, Jason, even the physicists don't even understand. They're just guessing here. We're all trying to figure it out, but it's all theoretical. However, it just makes sense that, to your point, Donnie Cho, that even if there is some kind of a in between atoms existence that may even be more visceral than what we're experiencing now, there's something coming here from wherever that place is.
Yeah, that is not,
and it isn't
from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something coming here that's not from here. It's not native to here.
No.
Again, going back to the simulation or video game theory to Donnie Cho,
right?
Our entire universe may be essentially on an old Nintendo, their equivalent of an old Nintendo cartridge.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Is like, we may not even be able to comprehend what's really happening. We don't even have the vocabulary. All we have is the vocabulary that we have.
Somebody just said, I don't know if they said it before, and I don't remember where it was, but they said that, like, this phenomena, it was today. I just heard this today on a podcast here. this is in relation to the David Grush situation, but
Mhm.
they said that we don't even understand something 2 to the order of magnitude. I don't exactly beyond what we're even able to understand. So think about this.
Yeah.
Let's just say that there's a number that's imperceptible to us. We're at level 10. The number that's imperceptible to us is beyond anything you can imagine. It's 2 orders of magnitude beyond that. That's what we're dealing with here. We're only seeing a fraction of what it actually is. We don't know anything. We only see a fraction of what we can even perceive. And that's only a fraction to the order of magnitude 2 to the order. I'm trying to figure out how he said it, but like whatever that is beyond our perception. So yeah, we're looking at we're never going to understand it. We can at least understand that whether it's good or not good for us.
Yeah.
And ultimately what they're concluding is that it ain't good for us. Whatever this thing is, it is not good. It's just
does not have
good.
your best intentions at heart.
No.
Unlike Donnie Cho, who absolutely does have your best intentions at heart.
Yeah, of course he does.
I do.
Tugging them heartstrings.
I'm all about great intentions.
Yeah, I get a lot. This is a dangerous topic.
All right, let me hit a couple of these real quick, and then we'll get to some of the more in-depth questions.
Can I tell you guys real quick one of my favorite theories or interpretations I ever heard about the Antichrist? It actually came from one of those channeling readings I was telling you about. Remember I was telling you about the raw material?
I already said no.
Wow.
So we're gonna
wow. It just keeps
really? I was actually kind of serious.
I know.
Anyway,
I know. Continue.
So it wasn't the raw material per se, but it was one of those things, right?
Yeah.
It was like this channeling.
You tripped me out.
And I remember one of the questions they asked this being was, what really is the Antichrist? Like, what is he? Like, what's he about? And the explanation I remember reading, it was like, I'll always remember it because I just thought it was the explanation itself was so cool. It said the Antichrist is basically Jesus if he had accepted Satan's temptation in that desert. And I was like, that idea is real compelling.
It's also a dangerous idea because
you remember when he's in the desert, right? Satan shows him the image of those cities.
Of course.
Right? He's like, this could all be yours. And then so it said that if Jesus had taken that offer, that's what the Antichrist is. And I'm like, yo, that actually
I think that
makes sense,
there's a danger when it comes to the way that we use language. I understand the idea of what's being said, but that would be considered blasphemy according to the Bible, because we're kind of saying, well, if Jesus did something bad, this is a potentiality.
Yeah.
And so we're suggesting that potentiality,
like in an alternate timeline.
Yeah, I would think that that's potentially blasphemy. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm off on this one, Jason. But
I like to think of it as If it was like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I
agree.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Marquise because to Marquise's point, while we understand the point, and it's not a bad one per se.
Yeah.
The way we use language, it sets up this idea that so then the Antichrist could be of the same substance as Jesus, and since Jesus was God, then again from the Christian perspective, which I hold, then that sets up the idea that, are we suggesting the Antichrist himself could be of the same substance? Here's where I would take that same idea, but twist it just a little bit further and say the Antichrist is a knockoff version of Jesus. It's essentially he's essentially the knockoff version of it's like instead of Gucci, this is the Guccio, right? It's the knockoff.
Guccio.
It's the knockoff brand, right? It's coming from China. Like,
dang.
It's the great value version. It's it's not
actually that reminds me. This was the point I was going to raise in the first hour. Going back earlier to when you were reading that passage, right, and you were describing the prophet. It says that the prophet was, I guess, hyping everyone else up. And then I found it very interesting the description the Bible gave, because it said he had 2 horns, like a ram, right?
That was strange.
And then one of the other descriptions was that he was showing fire raining from the sky, right?
Yeah, like Elijah.
Well, my first immediate thought was, yo, that Mickey Mouse. And that fire raining from the sky is like fireworks at like Disneyland.
Fireworks. Hold on
there.
Joe is an agitator.
That description, like a ram, like because they're round. I was like, yo, that Mickey Mouse, yo.
Dang.
That fire from the sky. Because I've been to Epcot Center when they had the fireworks. It's pretty gnarly.
Wow.
It is. Dang it! I want to laugh harder, but you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So the horn again, going back to the Daniel as an understanding or as the decoder ring for revelation, right? So beasts are systems. They're systems. They can be nations, but they're systems. Heads are like the person, but the horns are like can be. Or let me phrase this: the head is a kingdom itself, right? Which is why there's a beast that has four. There's it looks like a four-headed leopard in Daniel, but it has the same body. That's a kingdom. That's, I would argue, the reunified Grecian kingdom of Alexander that we will see coming in the future. Because remember, Alexander's empire, the Hellenistic empire, was broken up into 4 kingdoms, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a reunification of those 4 heads on one body. But the horns are individual rulers. A lot of people have suggested that those 2 horns are 2 different people. One have suggested the Antichrist himself and the false prophet. Some people have suggested the false prophet is actually 2 different people. There's a lot of interpretations on that.
My frustration.
Mickey Mouse is a new one, though.
Yeah,
really? I thought other people would have thought of this. That was my immediate thought when I thought the horns and it looked like a ram. I was like, yo, that Mickey Mouse.
That's messed up, Tony. This guy.
Mickey, we're gonna condemn.
Okay, so if we follow along, if we follow along this train of thought, right? If Mickey Mouse is the one that's pointing the way, well, then along these lines, then he's basically pointing the way to like some corporate machine.
Yeah.
Right, because he's the face of a corporate machine. Disney's probably tied in with all these other conglomerates, right? They have all these satellite companies that you don't know what's going on and all these ties.
Yeah, you're
maybe that's what Mickey Mouse really is.
Why is the mouse running these bauxite mines with slave labor in Africa? What's up with that?
Oh my God.
Maybe that's what the Bible meant. Like, the prophet is the face of that. The PR face of this machine.
I have a question, actually, genuinely. What do you? I know this is kind of off topic, but we're joking about it.
Seriously, it's the second hour anyway, so yeah.
Why is the music industry so clearly satanic? Clearly, not even like hype, just like metaphor. It's clearly.
Well, Satan did lead the choirs of angels. I think he just he's just singing a different tune. But
there's no doubt,
we've actually done it. We did an episode on like the whole satanic panic. I think it really just comes down to, because that's what they do. That's what they are. At least the people who are in the know, like they are Satanists. Like they really do believe in Satan. Like, again, not everyone, but the people in power. And they do this. They push these envelopes so that people just keep accepting it, which gives these things more power. Honestly, one of the questions I have, right, that I'm still wrestling with right now is, I've said it for years now, where's the line between research and worship, right? Because it does seem like, again, I do think there's a physical Bigfoot running around, but I don't think that's I do not think that's the majority of the encounters. I think the majority of these encounters are actually supernatural. But it's like, well, but why would demons or spirits want to portray themselves as Bigfoot? It's like, well, what do? People run out there and start looking, right? We become attracted to them. We buy these little statues and figurines, and it's like, is it possible that
I would contend,
yes,
that those demons and spirits didn't choose the image of Bigfoot? I think we chose the image of Bigfoot for them. Kind of like Ray in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where he chose to stay Puff Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, Dean would agree with you on that. In fact, his whole point is that going back to the whole UFO thing, where it's like, why is it they're jinn 1,000 years ago, they're elves a few hundred years ago, but they're little green men now? Well, it's because they're taking the form that is acceptable to us. It may be that that's just, oh, hey, well, you're looking for a Bigfoot. I'll come as a Bigfoot.
Passport to Magonia. You're talking about Jacques Vallée's, Vallée, John Keel.
Yeah.
The idea that the Trojan horse, it's like but it's all the purpose of which all of this is to manipulate the consciousness of the population.
Yep.
To toy with humanity, to mess with us.
Yeah, to allow access to Texas, and we've talked about this on the channel as well. He says, I think those people also control social media now. It's the new music industry. I mean,
it's the last Beyonce concert, and again, was literally like a tribute. It was bizarre, man. I didn't watch it. I don't watch any of that stuff, but like I saw some TikTokers do like a thing about it, a stitch or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, they couldn't have possibly done that in real. Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
Same thing with Travis Scott.
Right.
I just can't. My mind can't. I just can't believe they can do this in plain sight and people don't question what is happening.
Lil Nas X.
Lil Nas, yeah. Well, there was a thing.
Lil
like
Uzi Vert is Little Lucifer. Lil Uzi Vert is just Lil Lucifer.
Yeah.
Lil Nas X is dancing on Satan's lap. You got Sam Smith, who's literally dressed up as the freaking devil.
Yeah.
What is happening? I just don't understand.
So we talked about this. This is a legitimate question I have, is because we see it in movies, right? It's like, why are they doing actual magic in movies these times? It's not just fantasy magic. It's like they have actual sigils. They say the actual words. Why? Is it possible that just us people observing makes you a part of the program, whether you're doing it or not?
That's terrifying.
Are you giving power to these like, it's like, well, but I'm not engaged in it. It doesn't matter. You're there, you're watching it. Because
you are engaged in it.
You are engaged in it by observing it. In fact, this is not a new phenomenon, but for decades now, people have talked about when they've watched occult rituals performed on DVDs or video cassettes, that things start happening in their house. It's like it gave them access.
Effect. Yeah.
Exactly. But only it's not it's not taking you from one place to another. It is literally just you just watched it happen, and so now it's there. It's not even a hitchhiker. It's like a lot of people have suggested that by watching it, you've opened the door, and now those beings can come through and engage with you. You gave them all the permission they need to do that.
This is wild, man. I get. I'm terrified because again, they're literally targeting mostly the youth, like young people.
Yeah,
just like Mickey Mouse.
Just like Mickey. Oh my gosh. I think Johnny Bravo is worse than Mickey Mouse.
But Disney's job is to target little kids, that's their job.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And they've got whole shows that have literal, like, for kids that have Baphomet in them. Like, it's like an actual character. You're like,
did you see, and I don't want to get into I don't want to I hope this isn't political, but like, I saw this young girl, I believe she identified as a girl, from what I understand, who drew a picture in support of the movement that's happening in society today. And for some reason, you got the pink and you got the rainbows and you got, okay, she's in support. Okay. You got the kids playing. Okay. It's just, and then you got a demon.
Yeah.
A literal horned demon front and center in that picture. And there were parents that were causing, for bad reasons. The parents were doing they did it for bad reasons. They just don't like anybody different. However, they've targeted this one image on there that I was like, wait a minute, why did that little girl pick that from a video game that I play? I play the video game. I didn't even know that character. It was from Genshin Impact. There's this one random element, one random demon like a creature. I didn't even know it was in there, and I'm like, why did she choose? There is literally a fairy that's a nice little fairy girl flying around, and it's you're the boy or girl, you're out there flying, and there's not one main character that has anything to do with this one random rare character she chose for her imagery. Why? That's the odd input.
I think that was there specifically to piss off Christians.
What about
they knew Christians were going to watch?
Check out recently this, and again, I'm not anti anything except for anti-hate. I'm not anti anything but anti-hate, period. I think that people should be allowed to do whatever they want to. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. I don't have to like it. It's their choice. They're not hurting me, and I have to teach my kids not to do what I don't. Like, that's my responsibility. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
However,
I'm anti baby.
The Target thing, right? Do you know what the Target thing was? It was because they put satanic, literally.
Yeah.
The designer literally came out in support of Satanism, saying that it was about freedom of expression and it's about all this. And I thought, is this a joke?
Yeah, no,
you could have done it without that. Is my
it was
point.
in the kid. Yeah, it was in the kids section too. That's the thing. It was like they put they put that whole section like right there between the boys and the girls section. They put it right there, and it included overt occult. Not if you close your eyes and
no,
straight up, that's the devil, like there.
And the designer came out and talked about specifically the satanic link between. He said, Satanism is about, Satan is actually this kind of, it's good. He's about diversity. What? Stop, because that's going to scare everybody, not just like that's bad for anybody, right? But again, that's what I don't understand. Why do you have to link that to Satanism? Why did you have to do that?
Maybe because
that's
it
my
is.
Listen, I don't believe that. I will never support what's happening against the LGBTQ plus community, period. I'll never support it because I've been black my whole life and they didn't like me just like they don't like LGBTQ people. It's not as bad as it used to be. But like my thing is why in the world, like I think that you can oppose something without being violent against it. You should be able to oppose something. It's your right to oppose something. We live in a country where you can say, I don't like this thing and I'm going to protest 100%. But violence against someone you don't agree with is not acceptable, period.
Right. No.
That's literally, you're just doing this. You're just doing Satanism in a different way because Satan would love for you to go out and hurt somebody because you don't agree with them. We don't stone people anymore. And nowadays we don't live in a country that does that. So when people are doing that, I think it's just as evil as the people that are saying
now we throw very little stones at people.
Yeah, we throw digital stones.
Yeah.
But no, and again, agreed. I've never supported violence. I think that's if you have to cut if you have to cut the tongue out, all you've proven is that you're afraid of what they're going to say.
Exactly.
But the point is, why is there this direct connection? Why are you bringing this in here?
Yeah,
well, because the philosophy behind it, I would argue, is satanic. This is not this is a promotion of ideologies. This is not, oh, well, let's care about people. I don't think that's what any of this is actually about. I think this is about the creation of a transhuman world. It's against humanity. That's what this is about. Now they're masquerading behind pretty colors and we love people and isn't it wonderful? No, that's not what you're doing. You are trying to hurt people. You are trying to lure them away.
Well, listen, what will you say on the internet stays forever. So I will hold my opinion about specifically how I feel about that. But
can I share how I'm a
Christian. So
I just would like to share how I feel about the LGBTQ plus community, and my feeling is just stop adding letters. It's getting hard to keep track of. Just come up with a better name.
I think it's LGBTQA plus now.
Just call yourself
ally.
There's more. Have you seen? Yeah. Well, okay. So real quick, I think there's a difference between someone who is this way and that's a whole other conversation, and the agenda behind it. Like the people. Why does it have a multi-billion-dollar backing? Why is it that the people who actually run the economy are saying you have to do this? Right? It isn't. These people don't care about people. Please understand. These are the same people who are perfectly happy with bauxite being mined by 8-year-olds.
Why are these people getting more business loans for supporting these ideas? Like,
hold on.
Why are they getting?
I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna do something that I think is unpopular among my fellow Christians, and that is this. We know that there is a mega industry for secular Christianity, mega industry. There, people are getting rich, off filthy rich, yelling and screaming on a pulpit, claiming that they're here to help to excise demons out of people. And then by the way, and listen, this could go both ways. This could go a lot of ways. Then saying that I support Trump because he's some kind of thought leader. He's just as bad as all of them. And so in my mind, I feel like I think that if you're a pastor, the Bible says you're supposed to stay out of that stuff. You're supposed to stay out of politics. You're not supposed to get involved in the ways of the traditions and the customs of the world, which, by the way, voting is a custom of the world. It is an activity that is secular in a sense. And although I understand that if you do it, I don't fault anybody for doing it at all. And by the way, we vote with our dollars. We're tax-paying citizens. Let's not go there. But the bottom line is this. Is that I think that when we're supporting certain politicians as Christians, that's where it gets dangerous. That's where we're becoming more secular, just like someone who is, even though we're not doing the LGBTQ plus A, B, C, D, E, F, G thing, we're still doing something as a part of the world. That is according to the agenda of what I believe is, satanic. If you're saying you're a Christian, but you're choosing the lesser of two evils, you're just choosing one of Satan's demons. You're like, oh well, you know what? There's no angels out there, so I'll just pick the less mean demon. That's literally what's being said about politicians,
Right.
and
The
so I
lesser
think
of two evils is still evil.
that's kind of where I go. So I think I get scared of siding against something when I know that there are people who don't think critically about these situations and have a very traditional secular thinking. When I say traditional secular, you know what I mean by that, right? Like back in the day, there were people thought that, well, you know, I watched a 1950s documentary where literally there were people who were saying that blacks have the same rights as whites in the 50s. I was like, what the but that's what they thought. They believed that in their heart. Today they think not the same exact thing, but they think very similar secular ideas, but that are traditional in nature.
So let me take that one step further. I would suggest one of the big issues is that the church made itself subservient to politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Tony, I think it was Tony Evans was talking
ways.
about this. He's like, why did white church go this way and the black church went this way?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was talking about this. I'm like, well, no, take it one step further. We made ourselves subservient to these ideas. So it's not that the white church went one way, the black church went one way, is that they all went the same direction, which is under the government and under these ideologies. And then you just found the ideology that you like the best.
Yeah.
It was just, are you Coke? Are you Pepsi? Are you Dr. Pepper? That's all it was. Instead of being again above it. And I would push back on that. And again, we'll have to do a whole other show on this. But like, I don't think that means we don't engage again in, not of, but my big thing is we made ourselves subservient to these ideologies. So instead of calling out the ideologies and saying, no, this is what's right and this is what's wrong, we're waiting for them to tell us. To your point, we're letting secularists. And again, what are the secularists doing? They're setting up false problems for us to fight over instead of saying, whoa, what's up over here? Like, what's all this? Right? Why is this happening? And it's like, no, fight about this, right? These are the distractions.
Yeah, that's
right?
Frustrating. Yeah. I
But
mean,
again, whole of the show. We have less than 10 minutes left. I want to get to some of these. No, you're fine. Well, again, we're going to have more.
Jason, can I ask you a quick question?
There's no way you're going to.
Could you name me one politician or, I don't know, famous American politician that you've truly feel like was actually a Christian? Out of all of them, which one struck you? Was there anyone that struck you? Not a single one?
Honest Abe. I'm just kidding.
Not Jimmy Carter?
No. Are you kidding me?
That guy built
I don't think
stuff.
you can. I don't. Well,
yeah. Not for the blacks.
Yeah, exactly. Like, here's the thing. I don't think you get there and keep your. I don't think you're able to get to that level of power and keep your soul. Right.
Yeah. No.
Like, the one thing everyone keeps forgetting is with a few exceptions of recent additions, everyone who's in power now knew what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein and participated. And even if they didn't participate, they knew it was happening. And they said, well, we were afraid. Okay, no, you aided and abetted. So that's all of them. I think
what got me was Noam Chomsky. That tripped me out. The Noam Chomsky revelation that
didn't
was
surprise
terrible.
me at all. Yeah, that didn't surprise me at all.
Oh, wait, what was the Noam Chomsky thing?
He's one of them.
Oh, he's one of the ones that was hanging around with Jeff. There's some money exchanges going on with him.
Yeah, that dude
had access. That was
that
bizarre,
dude did exude some vibes.
Yeah. Well, again, Noam Chomsky doesn't surprise me at all. Anyway, real quick. Be Kind says, been waiting to hear about your impression on Michael Heiser's work. Again, Michael Heiser, we reference him all the time on Seru Papers, and we've talked about him a lot. I'm very pro his work. There's a few things I would disagree with him on, but very minor things. Again, he's great. CF asks, has anyone mentioned 666 would be a mistranslation? It's not that it's a mistranslation. There are we found papyri in Egypt that comes to the number 614. A lot of people have said that's confirmation of Nero because that was another way to write his name.
I have heard some people be like, it was never 666. It was supposed to be 616.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
the Marvel universe?
Okay.
Yeah. The problem is the preponderance of text that we have shows 666. Again, the Greek that we threw up here, this is the wrong button. Where'd it go? Again, the Greek that we have on the right-hand side of the screen, that is the majority of how it's depicted in the text that we have. We have a few that vary, but that's the majority of it. And going back to comments, and there we go. Radio Vault says they're trying to make humans without souls. The demons can inhabit them. I think we all basically agree on that. Yeah.
Yep.
I think there's some. Do you think there's some people walking around nowadays without souls?
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
I do too.
I
do too.
Outlaw Angling asks if I believe in,
and they're called gingers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's actually hold on. Let's talk about why the gingers are the ones. Oh, we've already talked about that. Why the gingers are the ones getting
Those
raced off all the
gingers,
time.
man.
Yeah. Real quick, we'll do a whole episode on that. I'm what you would call pre-wrath.
Oh my gosh.
Here it is. Titan asks John, for everyone, would y'all suppose the beast may seem otherworldly since man does not trust one another?
I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, that's it. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm getting that as, do I think that he's actually a man just like us, but appears to be otherworldly, or that he is otherworldly and because he's otherworldly, we don't recognize him as? I'm not sure I understand what that
I'm a
means.
little vague on that one too, but I would interpret it, since we only have 3 minutes left, I would interpret that as even though he has a human body, would he still just appear to be otherworldly, or would he put on the masquerade of the otherworldliness? I think there's so much otherworldly about what's going on. That's why.
Is he talking about the beast or the Antichrist?
Well,
he's talking about the beast, right?
He may be talking. You know what? He may be both.
Yeah, that's why I don't. That's unfortunately. I'm sorry, man. I apologize. I can't.
I always envisioned the beast to be something more like AI, something more mechanical, something like a system, a very complex system.
Could be.
Because if it was a person, it would have been described as a dude,
Well, but he is. That's the thing. It's all of the above. That's the whole thing. Is there is a individual human being walking around. I just don't think he will be human because he's thrown directly into the lake of fire. But there's other systems around him. Like that's the whole thing. Is the beast is both the person is the human and the system itself. So it's more than just.
Okay, I think I kind of follow what you're getting at, because I always interpreted the beast as like the internet. Right, but from your point of view, it could be the internet, but it could also be the people running the internet, the people behind it. Yeah, I could see that.
Lurkslot says, I think things are going to be so messed up that people will be accepting anything that might help. I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree with that.
This goes back to what Marquise was mentioning earlier about who was it who said that it didn't matter if it was the Antichrist or not, he'd accept anyone who could fix it. Yeah,
Bassett, Stephen Bassett.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. Be Kind asks, second hour. This needs to be a 3 or 4 part series. We are not going to abandon this. Again, this is why you got to like and subscribe on the other channel, because we're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff like this on that other channel as well. So don't worry, this will not be a 1-part thing. This will be a multi-part thing that we will return to over and over again. CF, we've got 30 seconds or less. Is the soul emergent or created? Go, Marquise.
My gosh, that is interesting. Really? You put me first? I would say that I believe that God creates everything, at least as we experience it, whether it be the soul or this body now. And so therefore I think it's created. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that the creation process doesn't have an emergent property, an emergent like characteristic, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, is it an emergent creation? I don't know.
Why can't it be both?
So
that's what
Donnie,
I'm suggesting.
Dang it, I think we're then I think we're on the same boat, because I'm like, I think it's not either or. I think it's both. I think it's both emergent and created. I think
that's what
I think we're all in the same boat on that one, because again, it goes back to the premise of we may not even understand. We probably don't even understand how this universe works to begin with.
No.
And so we're setting up these things like they're if or, and it's like, but what if it's actually both? Like,
know what? We are NES characters, those pixels, talking about PlayStation 5 characters.
Wow.
We're like, I wonder what PlayStation 5 is like. We have no idea. We're still in NES.
We're like ChatGPT 1 trying to hypothesize about ChatGPT 20.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest we're Mario trying to talk about us.
That's also
there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same metaphor. But on that note, thank you for watching, guys. Again, thank you, Marquise, for coming on. Again, when we move to the other channel, you are going to be on as often as we can have you.
I'll be there, man.
We'll
That's
get you and
awesome.
Dean together.
And real quick, don't think of this as a goodbye. This is just a scheduling
Transition.
reshuffling.
Yeah,
transition.
We're just switching around our schedules. That's all.
Yeah. And we've got one more live here with y'all on Wednesdays. Next week's going to be a lot of fun. So again, we've got one more, but then we're going to, again, we're growing. We're not really leaving because y'all still see us on this channel from time to time, but we're growing, we're changing. We're going to have more conversations like this in a way that won't get Tex in trouble.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So on that note, we'll see y'all next time. Be good.
Peace.